Spirit of Brown County is made possible in part by WTIU members and by visitbloomington.com. Bloomington is a short drive from Brown County and offers numerous restaurants, shops, hotels, arts, and events. Information on this and more at visitbloomington.com. Allen Funeral Home and Crematory of Bloomington, offering a complete line of services including pre-arrangement, cremation, and green burials. Locally owned and serving South Central Indiana for over 90 years. Brown County Convention and Visitors Bureau. Brown County is home to a variety of fine art galleries, shops, unique lodging accommodations, outdoor recreation, and special events. More information at 800-753-3255 or browncounty.com.
Brown County, Indiana is a popular tourist destination. Each year, more than 1 million people flock to Brown County State Park to admire the beautiful vistas and colorful autumn foliage. It's the largest and most popular state park in Indiana. The region attracts more than tourists. It's also been home to a number of notable artists. In 1907, Indiana painter Theodore Clement, also known as T.C. Steele, moved his studio to a ridge just outside of Belmont. Other artists soon followed. The painters Adolph Schultz, Marie Goth, and photographer Frank Hohenberger are just a few who rambled the hills and hollows, capturing the sublime imagery of Brown County. T.C. Steele's presence marked the beginning of an arts movement that continues to the present day. And there's music. The annual Bill Monroe Bluegrass Festival up in Bean Blossom attracts musicians and fans from around the globe. It's the oldest continuously running bluegrass festival in the world. Musicians, artists, tourists, and scholars, Brown County hosts an eclectic cast of characters. What brings them together is a love and appreciation of the land. More than 300 square miles of scenic rolling landscape, woods and valleys, vistas and meadows, ever changing with the seasons and offering an endless palette of light and color. Beauty is in the hills and the heart of Brown County.
Brown County is known all over Indiana. I mean, if you mention Brown County, everybody knows where you're talking about.
Who calls Brown County home? What is it that draws so many visitors and inspires so many artists?
I love the nature, I love the scenery, being in the middle of the woods. It's a very enjoyable environment to be in.
There seems to be a kindred spirit amongst the people that come here that like the nature, they like more of a simple life, more connected to the earth, perhaps.
I've been here for about 20 years, but this is by far the friendliest county that I've been in.
It's a feeling. It's not a abstract thing. It's a feeling. It's something that when you come here, it envelops you.
The land itself is beautiful, the natural surroundings, but the people are very special. It's a wonderful community. And I think there's an opportunity in Brown County to be sort of your own person, to be a little bit quirky.
There's lots of characters. They live back in the woods like you would think and live in a unique lifestyle like you think they would, and they exist. And I think they gravitate to this area because it's conducive to creativity. There are many people like that, and I've been fortunate to meet a few.
Can you believe in the older days they had to do this?
When people come to visit us, to visit the Pioneer Village, they're looking for the substance. All history is local history, and all local history is family history.
Brown County was always viewed as kind of being this place where the past persisted. Brown County was viewed as this place where people were different. People were like almost like your ancestors here. Before the real tourist boom happened with the art colony, Ken Hubbard's writing about Brown County kind of created this appetite of what people thought Brown County, Indiana would be like.
Abe Martin is that neat little character, that cartoon that Ken Hubbard gave birth to on the tip of his pencil, I always said. But he is a philosophical, sharp-tongued, sharp-witted gentleman that once you get caught in his little anecdotal sayings, you get hooked on them.
Like this kind of rural, somewhat simple but also wise, somewhat funny but also serious, kind of commentary on whatever was wrong with the modernity or the modern world. Brown County was the cure for it all.
The land comprising Brown County was acquired through two different agreements, the Treaty of Fort Wayne in 1809 and the Treaty of St. Mary in 1818. Once a part of Monroe, Jackson, and Bartholomew counties, Brown County was established in 1836. It was named after General Jacob Brown, a war hero credited with helping defeat the British in the War of 1812.
The first white man here was Johann Schoonover. Folks came in from Kentucky, Tennessee, Ohio, and also Virginia. People who came here were really looking for a place much like the places they were leaving.
This wasn't the kind of place where you could easily make a living. The soil was never good to begin with. You can imagine what the erosion was like once the trees were cut down and fields were planted. You couldn't make a living. You couldn't feed your families.
The conditions were hugely primitive. Kind of the running joke in Brown County is in 1920, when the Depression hit, we didn't notice. Charles Kessler McDonald was my great-grandfather, and he started in 1891 the McDonald grocery store. Only it wasn't a store in a building, it was a store on wheels, and he was a huckster driver. He drove a huckster wagon. Charles Kessler McDonald traded a pocket watch and a bicycle for a flatbed wagon, 2 oxes, and a 50-pound sack of sugar and a 50-pound sack of flour. And he took off east of Bean Blossom, and a day later he came back with no sugar, no flour, but the wagon was full, and he had traded all of those items. He had huckstered, and he had a list of things that people wanted. So that began the grocery store business, and today is 2012. Our family is still on the same corner in Bean Blossom. We still have the McDonald's Shopworth grocery store. We're the oldest continuously owned and operated family business in Brown County. We think at this point in time we're the oldest continuously owned and operated family grocery store in the state of Indiana. But that's a long history. You know, to be a family grocery store in a Walmart world today is not an easy task. The first tourists to come to Brown County really came when the train came through Brown County. The train system was built in 1906, and that really opened up Brown County as a tourist destination, and the artists that came from Indianapolis to come down to Brown County generally came on the train.
It wasn't until the railroad came that really kind of created the Brown County tourist opening up. That combined with the development of the roads, auto tourism, Brown County was that close spot connected to Indianapolis through that. So Yep, Chicago coming down to Brown County through the train. You got Indianapolis coming in by the car. Even though the roads were rutty and rough, it was doable for people. And it allowed for a tourist industry to really kind of grow here, starting as early as the 1920s, teens even, folks were coming in.
The original builders of the Indianapolis Southern originally wanted to go from Indianapolis to Nashville and then go west towards Bloomington. The grand irony of that being is that Nashville said, no way, we don't want your stinky, smoky steam locomotives in our community. So the railroad instead just built to the northwest corner of Brown County. But something that's just interesting about it today is that I think those 8 miles, and that's all it is 8 miles of our railroad go through Brown County. I think that is some of the territory that defines our railroad more than any other, just given the ruggedness, given the history of Brown County. And you know, it means a lot to our company to this day that we have a presence in Brown County.
I think the train coming into Helmsburg is really important for Brown County, mostly because it allowed outsiders to come in.
T.C. Steele probably is the biggest name. You know, he when he first came to Brown County, he rode the train to Helmsburg and then you know, went out into the county from there.
T.C. Steele had not only a statewide and even nationwide reputation as a landscape painter, he also had a tremendous influence on the development of Brown County. He was the first major artist to settle here in Brown County, so what came later, in a sense, started with him.
A lot of people talk about T.C. Steele and the Brown County Art Colony in one breath, and when in actuality T.C. Steele came to Brown County in 1907, and he was already 60 years old when he came here, so you might even think of it as a retirement place.
He didn't bring them all here, but the fact that he was here was a big draw in itself. He usually went by Theodore, and his friends often called him Theo, but he signed his paintings with his initials, TC, and so from an art historical point of view, that's how he's come to be known, is T.C. Steele.
But the Brown County artists were really the next generation of artists. They were quite a bit younger than T.C. Steele, and most of them were from Chicago and came because of Adolf Schultz, who was Ada Walter Schultz's husband, and he discovered Brown County and actually came here and saw Steele when he was building the House of the Singing Winds, and then vowed that he would come back, and he spread the word in Chicago. So really, it wasn't for several more years that the Brown County Art Colony was really a colony.
The love of the countryside, the beauty here in Brown County, it was something that all of the artists wanted to capture in their work. They all seemed to find inspiration in some element of Brown County. They wanted to capture what was special about this time, about this place, the feeling, the atmosphere, the light, the color, and bring that all together. And that's something that is still here.
The T.C. Steele State Historic Site is located on the eastern side of the county near Belmont.
I have had people describe when they come in through our gates having this sense of serenity that just comes over them. As you come up the driveway, on the left, the formal gardens and the big white spruces that Mrs. Steele started from seed. But you get your first look on the right of what the Steeles came to call the House of the Singing Winds, perched right on the ridge top looking down at you. Even before you take your tour of the buildings, you get a sense of what it might have been like to be here. You're stepping back in time, almost 100 years. Steele's initial vision was that their new home was going to be a seasonal retreat. He designed the house with that in mind, and it included big porches that wrapped around. Well, the breeze would come up over the hill. It would hit the wire screening of the porches and vibrate. It made a humming sound, and so it came to be known as the House of the Singing Winds. Our tour of the buildings normally starts in Steele's studio, which was built in 1916. When you walk in there, you can imagine why he called it his dream studio, because it has this enormous north window. It takes up almost the entire wall of the building. And it's filled with his artwork, as well as occasional small exhibits. We have the same 211 acres that the Steeles had. When Steele arrived, the area had been cleared for farming, and Mrs. Steele dedicated herself to creating interesting landscapes, gardens, and naturalized areas that would provide her artist husband with a variety of subject matter. We've been restoring her gardens the last few years, and what you see now is still only a small fraction of what was once here.
Frank Hohenberger was a frequent guest at the Steele House in Belmont. He was a well-known photographer and wrote a weekly column for the Sunday Indianapolis Star called Down in the Hills of Brown County.
He was a photojournalist with the Indianapolis Star, and he wrote many wonderful articles about life in Brown County. But his art was photography.
And took lots of photographs all around in Nashville and Brown County and some in the southern states. He was just kind of a cantankerous old man, but very, very talented.
He is a giant, huge part of the mix, especially for historians, because he kept wonderful journals and also was a photojournalist. But originally I think he came here to capture the scenery, like everyone else was attracted by the wonderful scenery. But he became really interested in the people, and he documented not only the artists and their personalities, but also the native Brown Countyans. His fabulous photo collection at the Lilly Library and also his journals are available to anyone, and they're very insightful, because he'll just each day talk about where he went to, not only to photograph, but also who he interacted with, and funny little things that they said.
If you look at the photography, you can see that he studied the people and brought out their character.
Well-known writers such as James Whitcomb Riley, Ken Hubbard, and Frank Hohenberger popularized the scenery and culture and drew national attention to the high caliber of art, artists, and beauty of Brown County. The rise in popularity and growth of auto tourism helped usher in what would become Indiana's largest state park. In 1929, Brown County State Park was open to the public. If there was any doubt before, Brown County was now firmly established as a destination site for tourists. A stroll through Nashville shows that the arts and crafts are as vibrant as ever. The many galleries and studios give visitors a chance to see art and artists at work. The Brown County Art Gallery and the Brown County Art Guild have a mixture of old and new. You can view classic Indiana painters T.C. Steele, Ada and Adolph Schultz, Marie Goth, and V.J. Cariani alongside works by contemporary artists. One present-day Brown County artist is Tamar Kander. The woods and lake around her studio provide the ideal environment for her to create mixed media artwork.
We live in the woods, and in summer I feel it's difficult to see the sky unless I'm either out walking in one of the parks or I'm in the lake and the sky is right, which actually led to this fantastic sky series that I'm busy on. Fantastic because I'm excited about it. I was swimming in the lake and swimming along, and I saw this raft, and underneath the raft were these plastic things that support a raft, plastic buoy things, and there were these beautiful different blues. And so it went in somewhere. It's like a filing system. It goes in somewhere, and this morning I started something, and without thinking about it, I had these blues, purples, and that's the jumping off point. It might change completely, but there's actually so much of the lake where we live has seeped into my work. It was a great surprise to me. I didn't expect nature to affect me as much as it has since I've moved out here.
Local doesn't just apply to art. In the Weed Patch Music Company, you can find locally made dulcimers, guitars, fiddles, and mandolins.
I grew up in Nashville and in my 20s moved out to the country here and started building mandolins and banjos before that time, and have continued it, and here I am. The hardwoods around here are excellent. We have maples, cherry wood, walnut, all of those are good musical instrument woods. Here's a piece of curly maple. This is what the back, sides, and neck of mandolins and violins are made out of. You see how the grain is not straight, it's curly, I guess. That would, when that's smoothed down, that gives the figure in the instrument. The tops are made from spruce. Here's a piece of Sitka spruce that came from Alaska. You see nice quarter sawn grain, straight lines, close growth rings. That would be an ideal soundboard for a mandolin. Well, here we are at my north window here, where I have my violins that I've made hanging. Typically it's older to the newer work as I go down here. I'm a descendant of James Taggart, who's one of the early settlers of Brown County, and it's just, you know, it feels like home to me here, I guess.
The music's really important in Brown County. There's a vibrant bluegrass scene because of Bean Blossom and all the people that kind of travel here, and it's actually an international pilgrimage site for bluegrass musicians to come to Bean Blossom, Indiana, here in Brown County.
Just a ways north of Nashville, Bean Blossom, Indiana is home to a number of popular music festivals.
The place has a history that goes back so far, and all your heroes have been here and played here. And it's a very prestigious place to play, you know, if you're a bluegrass musician. I wrote a book that's fundamentally a history of this music park, and it's a history of this site that we're on. It's really, this has been a music park since 1940 or 41, thereabouts, and Bill Monroe didn't get involved till the early 50s, and then owned it really for the rest of his life, and his son ran it a little while after that, and then it came into the hands of the current owner, Dwight Dillman.
The June Bean Blossom Festival has now become the oldest continuous bluegrass festival in the world. We've met so many people here at Bean Blossom. There have been people here from, I think, 18 or 19 foreign countries that we've met, and they come from practically every state in the Union to this event. And since Bill Monroe was the originator of bluegrass music, and since this was his park, it's a unique event, really, that you won't duplicate anyplace else.
Come on, little girl, put your sundress on. Let's hit it, holler it, bluegrass song.
We got to go down, around, in the valley, and back up on the other side.
People come from all over the country. You can just drive around, you'll hear them every place. And you just walk right up and join in or sit and listen.
See? There's my bed.
Now don't worry about your shoes. Baby, that's no not a mountain.
She says we're here.
When I was starting out as a mandolin builder, I took one of my early mandolins to the June festival at Bean Blossom, and Bill Monroe was standing behind the stage practicing and talking to guys and signing autographs, so My buddies encouraged me to go up and let him try it out, so I did, and he took it and played it a little bit and said, "Why, that's a fine mandolin, son. That's going to be a good one someday." So it really boosted my ego. You know, it was real nice of him to do that.
We have 2 old cats. They are so brave. They love to camp. It's just a regular camper shell, only it just flips open and it becomes a tent. And instead of renting a golf cart, we brought our scooters with us.
Come on, little girl, put your sundress on. Let's head up the holler of the Bluegrass song. She likes picking the pen in rain and snow. She'll lay down and won't, don't you know?
Love it. It's a neat community. You meet friends. The campers on all sides of us are like family.
It's kind of like you aren't here all by yourself. You're with a lot of people that know you.
I think it's ribeye, but I didn't pick it out.
And man, that's a good feeling.
While Bill Monroe passed away in 1996, his music legacy continues and the June Festival has grown to a week-long event. Of course, you don't have to go to Bean Blossom in the summer to hear music. It's present year-round.
There are so many great venues here in this county. We've got everything from small coffee houses to the Playhouse, which is a 400-plus seat theater, and everything in between. And all the venue owners are really love what live music does to their atmosphere there. It's just a very conducive community for that. And there's so many of us that play, you get all that energy going every weekend, and it's just magic.
You've got to go back to mother. Thank you.
One popular venue is the Brown County Playhouse. It's a 400-seat thrust stage theater located in the heart of downtown Nashville. It got its start in 1949, shortly after World War II, as a joint venture between the Indiana University Department of Theater and Drama and local businessman Jack Rogers.
Well, after World War II was over, Jack Rogers, who was a very successful businessman and in both Nashville and Bloomington, decided that he would start a movie theater. They got Purdue barn plans. They built the Purdue barn. They then put a canvas canopy out over the front of that barn, and that's where the people sat. They had a gravel floor, no restrooms of any kind inside. But that was the beginning of the Brown County Playhouse.
The Playhouse opened its first season with The Old Soak. Admission was 90 cents. The theater offered concessions, but there were no restrooms. However, the programs all contained a note: restrooms across the street at the Nashville House. The years that followed brought memorable productions and growing audiences. Soon it became clear that a better building was needed. Keith Michael drew up plans and went to Andy Rogers, Jack Rogers' son.
My original area was theater architecture, so I went in and I presented some plans to Andy, and originally it was simply going to be a very simple theater. And Andy said, well, look, why don't we make this into a real honest-to-God theater? Andy also paid for an architect, and he leased it to us for the incredible amount of $1 a year. After a certain period of time, it was given to the IU Foundation, and that's exactly what happened. That was his contribution to downtown Nashville and to the community of Nashville.
Some of Brown County's best music won't be found at a club or a theater or even up in Bean Blossom. You can find it in Otis Todd's garage out on T.C. Steele Road. Otis Todd, known as Uncle Otis, holds a weekly bluegrass jam session in his garage every Thursday night.
Uncle Otis, his garage is kind of like church. You know, we go there every Thursday. You don't really know who's going to show up. Sometimes there'll be like 30 people there. There might be 10 people playing guitars, maybe 2 or 3 banjo players, or a few mandolin players, or someone will bring a stand-up bass or an electric bass, and so you don't know what kind of mix you're going to get.
Otis is just a really cool musician, down-to-earth, total Brown County guy that has got more songs in his head than I really thought were ever written. I mean, he can pull any song out and play it. Anyone's welcome at any level. And so you end up with this mixture of some of the best musicians around right next to a young boy that might be just learning and only been playing for a few weeks.
There's just something spiritual about being in that place and playing music. And Otis is like our patriarch, you know, he's our host.
The White Lightning Boys are a local favorite and show up regularly at Uncle Otis's. The Brown County-based bluegrass band has a special bond with Otis. Band member Barry Elkins is Otis Todd's nephew.
The White Lightning Boys, Dan Bilger, Barry, and all the guys, to me, that's just true, authentic roots bluegrass. It doesn't get more authentic than that. And there's no, what you see is that's how those guys actually are. You know, so many times now when people are trying to become marketable, they'll put some of that on. These guys are the real deal.
We have Barry Elkins as lead vocals and mandolin and guitar. We have Bird Snyder on banjo. We have Bob Adair on dobro. We've got Ryan Deasy on bass. We have Mike Lindu on fiddle. And I play guitar and some mandolin. The thing I like most about Brown County, I mean, it's hard to pick one single thing, but it's the people that I've met here and the sense of community and the fact that people are independent, they take care of themselves, but they also take care of each other. And there's a lot of pioneer kind of spirit happening around here. And then in addition, as a musician, there's just a tremendous number of fine musicians in the area, and there's always a good musical energy. And I've just really enjoyed immersing myself in the music scene.
Roll in my sweet baby's arms. Roll in my sweet baby's arms. Now lay around the shack till the mail train comes back. Roll in my sweet baby's arms.
Only 15,000 people live in Brown County, but every year, more than 1 million visitors come through the area. Despite the influx of tourists, Brown County residents have managed to maintain their unique identity and culture. As popularized by Hohenberger's photo, the Liar's Bench was a popular spot to exchange tales, both true and tall. Today, Brown County residents have additional ways of staying in touch with news and events.
I publish Our Brown County, and we're in our 17th year of publication. In addition to that, I decided to have another publication called Into Art that's more of a regional publication that includes the Columbus and Bloomington area. There's kind of this arts corridor really between Columbus and Bloomington, and we are in the 9th year of the Into Art magazine. And it's been great because we've had support from 3 totally different communities. I get the stories through email, and I edit, and I do the layout, and I do the ads. I don't ever know until real close to deadline just how much space I have to work with. So sometimes I have to edit stories, or have to add pages, have to move things around.
It's always great when I have a surprise ad, like a full page ad out of the blue, but that creates some challenges because then we have to move some other things. It's like a big puzzle, but there's a real sense of accomplishment when all the pieces are together and it comes together. That's a great thing, to actually be able to do something like I do with a magazine that I enjoy so much.
The Brown County Democrat is the region's weekly newspaper with a history dating back to the 1800s.
We were established in 1870 as the Jacksonian, so the Brown County Democrat has been around for a pretty darn long time in terms of newspaper life. I do everything from writing columns from personal perspective or from the perspective of the paper. I cover a beat. I'm the town council reporter. I'm the redevelopment commission reporter. I attend commissioners' meetings occasionally for fun and for business. I fix the internet when it goes down about once a week. It's down right now. I take some pictures, although not very well. I update the website. I edit the stories that come in, decide the placement, and lay out the actual pages. Tuesday is the start of our week, essentially, because we have a planning meeting at about 10, decide what we're going to map out for the week. And of course, that plan never stays in place because things happen, news happens that we don't expect. And we sort of get a centerpiece in place and photos that we're going to shoot and sports that we're going to cover and meetings that we're going to focus on and issues that we know are going to be coming up. And we work on those throughout the week. So by Friday, we need to have at least half of our copy turned in. And then I start my weekend of work. So Monday, I'm not so focused on actual production, I can actually think through content and decisions that I really should be making as an editor in terms of what's appropriate, what's not, where are holes in our stories. Mondays are a really crazy day. We start at about 8 o'clock in the morning, some of us earlier, and we are on deadline until 8 o'clock at night when we have to have pages ready to go to the press, and papers are ready to deliver in the wee hours. So folks get their Brown County Democrat on Tuesday mornings, even though our flag always says Wednesday. Historical quirk, we decided just to leave. I know we're mailed out to anywhere in the United States where people want the Brown County Democrat. I've mailed it to Alaska before. You know, people love things like the sheriff's log that are unusual, and you can't see anywhere else.
Well, the sheriff's log is pretty much everything that happens as far as law enforcement goes. Anybody that calls in about anything at all gets put in that log, and that log gets put into our weekly paper.
No matter how silly or insignificant it seems, that is something that is important to Brown County people, and it will have some kind of effect on their life. And it's never meant to make fun of anybody or to make fun of Brown County. It's to explain what life is really like and what our public servants have to deal with on an ongoing basis.
We have 11 full-time merit officers. We have a chief deputy and then myself, a sheriff. So there's 13 of us full-time. We have numerous reserves, about 15 reserves on hand right now. We deal with a lot of domestic violence and motorcycle accidents. We have a large amount of those, especially on the weekends. We have the state park here. There's about 16,000 acres there. We also have Yellowwood, Morgan Monroe, and Hoosier National that we also respond to some of those calls when the Indiana conservation officers aren't available. We deal with property line disputes, just anything that comes up.
Attention Brown County units, have a theft investigation. I have a TX number when you're ready to copy.
If you have to arrest somebody, that's a hard thing to do. I'm in this job to help people, and I love to help people. I was an EMT in this county for 5 years and a volunteer fireman for several years. When the time was right and a spot opened up, I was able to go full-time in 2006. And I never thought that's what I would want to be, but now that I'm doing this job, I mean, this is my career. This is what I'll want to retire from. And I've heard the saying, and I think it's true, that once you have a job you love, you'll never work another day.
It's just great to be able to work with those people every day, even if we deal with them in a negative way and they have to go to jail or they're written a ticket. We may go to the IGA store or one of our local stores here the next day off duty and walk through the aisles with them. And it's the same as it was before. You know, it's, hey, how you doing? What's going on? You know, just be one of them again. So that's a great thing. You know, and that's why these deputy sheriffs are very good at what they do. They have to be policemen, they have to be pastors, they have to be enforcers, and there's a gauntlet of things that they have to be all rolled up into one. But basically, they're just neighbors.
While Brown County is popular year-round, the autumn foliage attracts the largest crowds. It's the peak season for tourists.
I hate to say it, but I think it's kind of a love-hate relationship.
Most locals just know to avoid Nashville.
The biggest problem that we have is just traffic.
I don't choose to go downtown on the weekends unless I have to. Not because I don't like tourists, but because there are just so many of them. And it's hard to get around sometimes. If you need to go get to the IGA and you've got people going all across 46 and you just can't cross.
The biggest question people ask is not where are the restrooms, but who is Abe Martin? When tourists come here, they're looking for the natural beauty. I think they also like shopping on Main Street.
This is huge.
You can have mass-produced, printed country scenes that people buy alongside artwork by some of the most amazing artists of the 20th century and the 21st century now in the gallery and the guild here in Nashville. And tourists wandering through don't have a clue. Most people don't realize the art colony heritage of here. We can all talk about it. We're on the insider scene. There's been a lot of push in recent years to really kind of play up the art scene in Brown County. But I remember I didn't know anything about an art colony when I was in high school here. You think about tradition and you think about heritage, but even in the 1930s and 40s, they were bringing baskets up from and handmade chairs up from Appalachia to sell in the shops and stuff. They did a lot of handwork and handicraft here early on, but folks realized that was hard work lots of times, and so lots of the stuff were imported and sold. And so there was a real disconnect between what the shops sold and what the shops were and what Nashville was as a whole, being an art colony. I think a lot of the shops just opened up because, well, there's going to be a bunch of people there. I could come up with something and we'll put it in a shop.
The big yellow house on the right, the old Bartley House, endless variety of Americana, some local artists, and some Thomas Kincaid. And coming up on the right-hand corner, the big white building is the historic Hobnob Corner Restaurant, built in 1868, originally a general store, and for many years.
Brown County abounds with beautiful landscapes, art, and music. With shops, restaurants, and a huge state park, there's much to see and do. But for those seeking more physical activities or more immersive experiences, Brown County does offer some interesting possibilities.
I think today, there's probably more people coming to Brown County for outdoor and environmental beauty. You're seeing this real growth in bike trails and horseman's camp and all those things really kind of booming up, that people are really interested in the outdoor aspect of Nashville.
Brown County is a mecca for mountain bikers. Gnawbone, Nebo Ridge, and Brown County State Park are just a few places where pedal pushers can find some beautiful single-track trails to ride. Paddlers can enjoy the quiet waters of Yellowwood Lake, Salt Creek, and Lake Monroe. but you don't need to get a workout to enjoy some of the unique experiences Brown County has to offer.
We raise alpacas and we run a farm here, and as a part of the farm we have a little store, so one of our primary purposes is to educate people about alpacas and the alpaca industry. Alpacas were imported to this country from South America, and their use is fiber. They're a very gentle animal for the most part, very curious. They're not beasts of burden. We don't eat alpaca in this country. We shear them once a year and then we process their fiber. But we just sold as an industry 20,000 pounds to an international auction. They're going to weave it into fabric. We picked Brown County because we'd grown up in Indianapolis and we used to come down here a lot, and we liked the terrain and the trails and so forth. My wife and I used to travel, and we always thought it'd be fun to live in the mountains in the Rockies. But because of family being in the area, we realized that wasn't very practical. So we decided to locate first in Brown County. Then we got the idea of the alpacas, and we thought, what a good match, because the fiber could be spun, can be knitted, it can be felted, and so we thought it would be a nice match. We provide a product for the local artists, and then we could say that all of the product was made locally.
Over in Gatesville, prospectors search for what might be at the end of the rainbow.
There's gold in them there hills. There's gold in them there hills. The water's getting low, but onward we must go. There's gold in them there hills.
Well, my name's Tom, and I'm from over in the western part of the state, and I'm here in Brown County looking for gold. It's glacier gold that came down here 10,000 years ago from Canada via the Wisconsin Glacier, and it was pushed in here and ground up really fine, so it's hard to see. The minimal tool is a gold pan. Then you can move up to a high banker, is where you're setting that up and pumping water to it, and then you shovel and feed into it with that. And then the next thing after the high banker is the dredge, which is I'm just vacuuming the bottom of the creek. As you see here, I'm on the inside bend of this creek, and the gold follows the shortest route possible because it's heaviest, next to platinum and some of the higher minerals, but it takes the shortest route. So when the water's coming down through here, it goes around that curve, but the gold doesn't want to go there. It wants to go right straight down the creek. So that's why I work the inside corners.
Okay, folks, it's time to do it again.
The Gold Prospectors Association meets the first Saturday of every month.
Let's take off and start right here, and we'll go around and say your name and where you're from.
We are a chapter of the Gold Prospectors Association of America. It's the Gold Prospectors Association of America. They've been around for a long time. A lot of the people, they're there to get that gold, They want to spend their time in the creek. They get with us for the meeting, and then it's time for a raffle.
Everybody gets one, huh?
Everybody gets a door prize ticket. Thank you. If anybody objects, they can fight her. She's wiry.
First number, 391237.
You won, buddy. Say yay.
The Gold Prospectors meet outside the Gatesville Country Store, which is run by Robin Stevens. She cooks up homemade meals and has supplied them with tools, food, and know-how for years.
We have a little bit of a store, a little bit of a restaurant, and then the gold prospectors come enjoy the property, or people that just like to go rock hunting and things like that. And we have a lot of local following too. There's several people that live in the area, but we get a lot of construction crews, the worker guys, because they come in with dirty shoes and muddy boots, and it's a concrete floor, and it's okay. So people enjoy it here. It's just a home. It's a homey place.
We're not here for the money. We're here for the camaraderie and the enjoyment of being outside, and especially in a beautiful place like Brown County.
Brown County State Park is the largest and most visited state park in Indiana. It's also one of the largest in the country. Since its opening in 1929, visitors have enjoyed hiking the trails and gazing out over beautiful views from the hilltops and lookouts. Horseman's Camp offers equestrian lovers a chance to camp and ride with like-minded friends. There are 70 miles of trails available year-round. There is car and primitive camping, and for those who prefer creature comforts, the Abe Martin Lodge is open year-round and has dining, Wi-Fi, and an indoor water park. Mountain bikers can ride more than 25 miles of single-track trails from easy to extreme. But Brown County State Park does more than offer views and recreation. It also serves as a vital component of our ecosystem.
I would hate to think that nature is a foreign language, but to some people it is. We manage the Nature Center and try to tell the park story with displays and exhibits, and we update that periodically with new materials, nature games and exhibits and things that kids can learn, and parents come through here, and schools too, of course. I show a map on our programs of Indiana taken from 400 miles in space. This is Hoosier National Forest and parcels of Yellowwood State Forest and Morgan Monroe State Forest. The park, of course, is a 16,000 acre major chunk of this green blob right here. So what's worth saving about this area is to maintain that contiguous forest. So that's certainly worth fighting for and educating people about. The whole rise of birding as a popular pursuit now by Americans tells us that a lot of folks enjoy birding. One bird that was studied this summer by some graduate students was the cerulean warbler. It's a little tiny bird that nests real high in the trees. You probably never even see one. We know its call, we know a little bit about its habitat preference. So people say, well, big deal, who cares about this little seemingly insignificant bird that nobody sees? Well, it's part of the picture. It belongs here. Over time, numbers are dwindling, so there's a concern. What's happening to this bird? The public's response to these things certainly drives a lot of our missions.
I hope in 200 or 300 years we still have forests and land that hasn't been built upon, and we haven't developed all of the empty land around here.
This is a place where the natural world is respected and it's cared for.
You have to have progress, and you have to have things like water lines and sewer lines and things that provide for the orderly growth of Nashville.
You can't be like everybody else. We can't be selling things downtown that you could get at Gatlinburg. We have to be able to keep Brown County authentic and a haven for craftsmen, and to show that that's what we were founded on, that's what we still value.
You know, Brown County is the best place to be, as far as I'm concerned. I love it here. There's no other place I would want to go and work.
And Brown County itself is just beautiful, just utterly gorgeous. God's country, God's acres. It's a good place to go out into the woods and just kind of sit and listen to yourself.
For whatever reason, there's that vibration here in this county. And you know, you've got these beautiful hills, and you've got all this color that you're surrounded with all the time. And then you have all these creative people that are drawn to this place. So it's a combination of the energy of the land and the energy of the people here, and that combination that starts dancing around that just makes it an energy that keeps building.
While the founding members of the artist colony may be gone, their work and vision remain. The hills, forests, meadows, and lakes continue to provide future generations of artists with inspiration and serve to replenish the souls and the spirits of the folks lucky enough to call Brown County home.
For a DVD or Blu-ray disc of this program or other WTIU-produced programs, go online at www.shopwtiu.org.